third video in our series on data storytelling for sports. In our last video, we covered exploring data to discover a narrative. In this one, we'll pick up where we left off and do a deeper set of analyses on the data. That is, we're going to explore things more deeply to see if our narrative holds or if new discoveries on the narrative emerge. The question we started with was, when do NHL superstars peak? And our goal in the last video was to explore data to see what sort of narrative would emerge from this question. Now that we've completed our initial data exploration, our draft narrative is as follows. Two superstars stand above the rest, Wayne Gretzky and Mario Lemieux. They had different styles that were both effective, and they were revered players that significantly impacted the era in which they played. Now, this narrative is pretty light, but our deeper analysis should reveal more that we can use and build into our broader data story. From our initial data exploration, a few things came to light, which are as follows. First, Wayne Gretzky and Mario Lemieux are significantly better than their superstar cohort, using average points per game by season across their career. Second, they had peaks at 23, but they also had multiple peaks in their career. Third, they both played in an era where the league expanded and the game changed significantly. And fourth, both their styles of play contributed to the evolving of the sport. Our goal now is to push on the above to see if we can look at the data in a more methodical and analytical way. In real-world projects, this might mean an exploratory analysis followed by a more detailed analysis to answer specific questions. In this video, we'll keep the analysis relatively simple to illustrate how we can go about answering our specific questions. We will divide our analysis into a quantitative phase and a qualitative phase. The quantitative phase will focus on statistical analyses and modeling. The qualitative phase is about background and research on the main character or actor in the data story. 3 questions will guide our quantitative analysis, which are: at what age did each superstar peak? Were there any superstars with multiple peaks? How did the superstars compare to one another? This should give us a profile of the superstar cohort and give us a relative sense for how Gretzky and Lemieux compared to that cohort. 2 questions will guide our qualitative analysis. What is the background for those superstars on whom we chose to focus? Is there something unique or interesting about that superstar? Let's explore the first question. At what age did each superstar peak? We looked at this in a couple of ways. The first was using a heat map, and the second through a trend view, where we lay the data across each player's age along the x-axis and then plotted the points per game by season on the y-axis. This resulted in a multi-line graph. However, as you can see, it's pretty cluttered and difficult to make any sense of. A simpler view was to take age and peak performance and then plot this using a column chart. This is a nice, simple view, but it doesn't lead us to understanding the average number of years it takes a superstar to peak and the flow into and out of a peak year. Let's explore the second question. Were there any superstars with multiple peaks? The short answer is yes. For example, we created a data frame that surfaced the closest performance years to a superstar's peak year, within 10% of the peak year. Interestingly, we found 80% of the players had multiple peak years, and we also discovered a couple of potential stories that we had not anticipated emerge from this simple analysis. For example, Joe Sakic had multiple peaks and high consistency in his play across his 20-year career. Let's explore the third question. How did the superstars compare to one another? You can already see some of this based on the previous analyses that we did. However, here we've summarized the points per game by season and then calculated the difference from the average. Now, if you stopped here, you might miss a lot of nuance, so it's important to think second level on your analyses. For example, the positions of these players would impact their points per game as would the eras within which they played. That said, it's pretty clear that Wayne Gretzky and Mario Lemieux stand out. While a delta of 1 may not seem like a huge number, it's significant. This delta represents approximately 1 more point per game that they were able to achieve when compared to their peers. Let's switch gears and explore our qualitative questions. The first of which is, what is the background for those superstars on whom we chose to focus? Wayne Gretzky and Mario Lemieux are 2 of the greatest players in hockey history, but they dominated in different ways. While Gretzky was the ultimate playmaker with unmatched consistency, Lemieux was the perfect blend of size, skill, and scoring efficiency. Gretzky's dominance came from sustained excellence. He had 15 seasons with 100 or more points and played 20 years without a significant drop-off. Lemieux, despite missing nearly 500 games due to injury and illness, had a similar points per game rate at his peak. Wayne Gretzky, born on January 26, 1961, in Brantford, Ontario, is universally regarded as the greatest hockey player of all time. He dominated the NHL during his 20-season career, primarily with the Edmonton Oilers, but also with the Los Angeles Kings, St. Louis Blues, and New York Rangers. Gretzky won 4 Stanley Cups with Edmonton and played a crucial role in expanding hockey's popularity in the United States, especially in California after being traded to the Kings in 1988. He retired as the NHL's all-time leader in goals, assists, and points, earning an immediate induction into the Hockey Hall of Fame in 1999. Gretzky is the most dominant offensive player in hockey history and holds more NHL records than any other player, which include most career goals at 894, most career assists at 1,963, most career points at 2,857, most points in a season at 215, and most 100-plus point seasons at 15. Mario Lemieux, born on October 5, 1965 in Montreal, Quebec, is one of the greatest hockey players of all time. Drafted first overall by the Pittsburgh Penguins in 1984, Lemieux transformed the franchise into a championship team. He played 17 seasons, all with Pittsburgh, winning 2 Stanley Cups as a player and 3 more as an owner. He was inducted into the Hockey Hall of Fame in 1997, bypassing the usual waiting period due to his impact on the game. He also had several career-defining stats and achievements. He was a 6-time winner of the Art Ross Trophy. He was a 3-time winner of the Hart Trophy. He was a 2-time winner of the Conn Smythe Trophy. He was 10th in all-time in points despite missing 500-plus games. He was 2nd in all-time in points per game, behind Wayne Gretzky. And he was 1st in career points per game post-expansion, ahead of Gretzky. Lemieux was a generational talent whose career was cut short by injuries and illness, yet he still dominated the game. His skill, perseverance, and legacy as both a player and an owner make him one of the most unique and impactful figures in hockey history. Let's explore our second qualitative questions. Is there something unique or interesting about that superstar? Let's start with Wayne Gretzky. Gretzky's hockey IQ was unmatched. His greatest asset wasn't size or speed. It was his hockey sense and anticipation. He famously said, "I skate to where the puck is going to be, not where it has been." His ability to read plays before they developed made him nearly unstoppable. Gretzky also revolutionized offense by using the area behind the net as a playmaking hub, now referred to as Gretzky's office. From there, he set up countless goals, controlling the game with unparalleled vision. He was also the only 200-point player in NHL history, and he did it 4 times. Many of Gretzky's records are considered unbreakable, especially in the modern low-scoring NHL. Moving to Mario Lemieux, he was one of the most skilled players to ever play the game. Lemieux combined a rare blend of size, finesse, vision, and goal-scoring ability. He made the impossible look effortless, often weaving through defenders with smooth, long strides. Also, there's an incredible comeback story here. First, he overcame Hodgkin's lymphoma in 1993. In one of the most legendary moments in NHL history, Lemieux received a radiation treatment for cancer in the morning, then flew to Philadelphia and scored a goal that same night. Despite missing 24 games, he won the Art Ross Trophy with 160 points in just 60 games. He retired in 1997 due to chronic back issues. He had suffered from herniated discs and sciatic nerve pain throughout his career. Then he returned to the NHL in 2000 after 3.5 years away and still dominated. His comeback season saw him score 76 points in 43 games at the age of 35, and he was the only player to own the team he played for. After retiring, Lemieux saved the financially troubled Pittsburgh Penguins from bankruptcy in 1999 by converting the team's debt into equity. He became the first former player to own an NHL team, and under his ownership, the franchise thrived, securing new ownership stability, a new arena, and 3 more Stanley Cups. Your data analysis should impact your narrative in some way. For example, you might discover that single stat that will be the main actor in your data story, or you may find events across a timeline that tell an interesting story. Either way, a good analysis helps bring your data story to life. For our narrative, we noted several points that could be used within a data story. For example, both Gretzky and Lemieux were anomalies when compared to their superstar peers. They also had strong supporting players around them, which helped them rise to high levels of stardom. Gretzky had a career with an uninterrupted arc that included multiple performance peaks. He also achieved more than 60 records that may likely go unbroken. Lemieux had a great career, but suffered health issues that interrupted his career twice. Imagine if he hadn't had those issues. Lemieux was also a player and an owner at the same time. This must have come with deep responsibility and pressure. So, where to from here? At this point, it's time to spend more time on sketching out your story. You may come back to another analysis or modeling activity, but it's now important to gather the interesting bits of information and begin to assemble a story. In our next video, we'll spend time fleshing out the data story. As you prepare for the next lesson, think through how different elements come together to create the data story. This diagram should get you started. Some of this we've already covered, and the rest we'll cover next week.